Hey guys, tonight we are going to drift back, way back, to a time when your biggest worry wasn't a looming deadline or a forgotten password, but simply making it to sunset. We're exploring why you, with all your modern sensibilities, wouldn't last a single day as a woman in the medieval period. Imagine, just for a moment, the world outside your window dissolving. The gentle hum of the refrigerator fades, the soft glow of your screen dies, and the very air you breathe changes. It grows thick, smoky, and cold. You probably think you're tough, but the complete and utter absence of what you consider basic comfort would be the first, and perhaps final, boss battle you'd face. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. As always, I love to see where you're all listening from. So feel free to post your city and what time it is for you in the comments below. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The first thing you register is not a sight or a sound, but a feeling. It's the cold. It's a damp, penetrating chill that seems to emanate from the very earth beneath you, seeping into your bones through the thin, lumpy sack of straw you're lying on. There is no gentle awakening here, no slow transition from dream to reality. You are simply yanked from the oblivion of sleep by a physical shock. Your alarm clock, a rooster just outside the wall, has apparently decided that 4:30 a.m. is a perfectly reasonable time to announce its existence to the entire world. It's a sound you're used to, but it doesn't make the raw shriek any less jarring. You try to pull the coarse wool blanket tighter around your shoulders, but it's a futile gesture. The blanket is rough, greasy with the accumulated sweat and grime of, well, you'd rather not think about how long it's been since it was properly washed. It offers more scratch than warmth. You lie perfectly still in the absolute, crushing blackness. There's no sliver of light from under a door, no faint glow from a digital clock. The darkness is total, a thick, velvety blanket that muffles the world. But it isn't silent. You can hear the slow, heavy breathing of your father snoring just a few feet away. The softer, raspier breaths of your mother and two younger siblings are a gentle rhythm in the gloom. And then there are other sounds. A low snuffle and a soft, wet chewing noise that you identify, without even thinking, as belonging to the family's prized cow, tethered at the far end of this single, small room. A rustle in the thatched roof above your head signals the movement of mice, or perhaps something larger. You try not to think about it. This is your home. It's a classic peasant dwelling, what historians call a wattle and daub hut. The walls are a lattice of woven sticks, packed with a mixture of wet soil, clay, sand, and straw. The floor is just compacted earth, cold and damp against your bare feet when you finally dare to move. And it's just one room. For everything. And everyone. You, your parents, your siblings, and, for much of the year, the most valuable livestock. Historians still argue whether the practice of cohabiting with livestock was a year-round necessity or primarily a winter strategy for survival. For you, it's just life. The cow and a few chickens are far too valuable to be left outside for thieves or wolves. Their body heat also adds a marginal, almost unnoticeable, amount of warmth to the cramped space. It's a trade-off, a little warmth for a lot of atmosphere. The air is thick and heavy, saturated with the stale smell of wood smoke from last night's fire, unwashed bodies, and the unmistakable, pungent aroma of manure. You've lived your whole life breathing this air, but even so, it catches in your throat. The central hearth, a simple pit in the middle of the earthen floor, has no chimney. The smoke from last night's cooking and heating fires simply rose, staining the rafters a permanent, greasy black, and then slowly, reluctantly, filtered out through gaps in the thatched roof. This is by design. The smoke helps to cure the meat hanging from the rafters and kills some of the insects that would otherwise infest the thatch. But it also means you live in a constant, eye-watering haze. Forget your modern allergies. The air quality in here makes the smog of a 21st century metropolis look like a pristine alpine breeze. Ancient beliefs held that the night air, the miasma, was full of pestilence and disease, so sealing the hut up as tightly as possible was seen as a health precaution. The irony, of course, is that the air inside was likely far more dangerous. A faint, grayish light begins to filter through a small, shuttered opening in the wall. Not a window with glass. That's a king's luxury, but a simple wooden plank you can slide aside. The rooster crows again, this time with more insistence. That's your final cue. There is no option to linger, no hitting a snooze button that doesn't exist. Your father is already stirring, a series of deep, guttural coughs racking his body. Work begins at first light, and being female grants you no exception. In fact, your day of labor started last night and will end long after his. You push the threadbare blanket aside and swing your legs off the straw pallet. The shock of the cold, damp earth on your bare feet is sharp, immediate. You don't own shoes for inside. You might have a pair of rough leather-turned shoes for outdoors, but they are a precious commodity. You stand up, your limbs stiff with cold, and a wave of dizziness hits you as the stale air fills your lungs. There is no concept of personal space, no quiet moment to yourself. Your waking is a public event, shared with every living creature in this 10 by 15-foot world. You are awake. You have survived the night. But the day has just begun, and it already feels like a monumental effort. Your first task awaits in the gloam, finding the chamber pot before anyone else needs it. Your hand pats the cold dirt floor in the pre-dawn gloam, searching. Your fingers brush against the rough wood of your father's sleeping pallet, and you recoil slightly. Privacy is a concept you've never known, but the darkness still provides a thin veil of it that you're not keen to break. Finally, your knuckles rap against cold, hard pottery. Success. You find the handle of the chamber pot, carefully gauging its weight and the telltale sloshing sound to guess how full it is. This morning, it seems, it's dangerously close to the brim. This is your job. As one of the women of the house, it's always your job. Taking a firm grip, you begin the delicate process of rising to your feet without tilting your hazardous cargo. Every movement is slow, deliberate. Chirping in the dark over a stray chicken or a sleeping sibling is not an option. That would be a catastrophe of unimaginable proportions, and one you'd be blamed for, loudly. You shuffle towards the hide-covered doorway, your bare feet silent on the packed earth. Pushing the stiff animal skin aside, you step out into the biting air of the false dawn. The world is painted in shades of gray and deep blue. You carry the heavy pot away from the hut, towards the scraggly patch of weeds and packed dirt that serves as the family's dumping ground. With a grunt of effort, You've heaved the contents into a shallow ditch. The acrid stench hits you, familiar and foul. This is it. This is sanitation. No plumbing, no sewage treatment. Just a ditch that will fester until a heavy rain washes it further downhill, likely towards the stream where you'll later fetch water for washing clothes. It's a perfect, closed-loop system of filth. You give the pot a quick rinse with a splash of water from a nearby rain barrel, swirling the icy liquid around before flinging it out. 2. Good enough. Returning to the hut, you find the rest of the family is beginning to stir, their groans and coughs filling the small space. Now for your own ablutions. You head to a corner where a wooden bucket of water sits. It was fetched from the village well last night, and by now it's achingly cold. You dip a gourd into it and pour a small amount into a shallow wooden basin. There's no hot water on tap. Heating water would mean using precious firewood and time, a luxury reserved for a serious illness or perhaps the weekly bath, if you're lucky. Historians still argue about how frequently ordinary people bathed. The popular image is one of unceasing, caked on filth, but there's evidence from town records and religious texts that bathing was encouraged, and public bathhouses, or stews, were common in larger towns. For you, out here in your rural hamlet, a full-body wash is a rare and complicated event. This morning, a splash on the face and hands will have to do. Next to the basin is a small, lumpy bar of soap. It's not the fragrant, colorful, moisturizing bar you know. This is lye soap, made at home from rendered animal fat and wood ash. It's a harsh, abrasive, yellowish-brown block with a sharp, chemical smell. You work up a pathetic lather in the icy water, the soap feeling slick and gritty under your fingertips. As you scrub your hands and face, it stinks. This stuff is brutally effective at stripping away every last bit of natural oil from your skin. Think of it as the ultimate exfoliator, and that it feels like it might just remove the top layer of your epidermis entirely. You splash your face with more freezing water to rinse, the shock of it making you gasp. You grab a piece of rough linen, more of a rag than a towel, and pat your skin dry. It already feels tight and raw. Now for your teeth. You can't just ignore them. A rotten tooth is more than just painful. It's a direct path to agonizing infection and, quite possibly, death. You reach for your chew stick. It's a small twig, usually from a hazel or oak tree, that you frayed at one end by gnawing on it. You use this frayed, brush-like end to scrub at your teeth and gums, dislodging bits of, well, whatever was left from last night's meal of coarse bread and cheese. The other end of the twig is sharpened to a point, a handy, built-in toothpick. There's no mini paste, no fresh-tasting foam. Your goal isn't a dazzling white smile or fresh breath. Your goal is simply to not be in agony. Forget mini fresh, you're aiming for twiggy adequate. Your hair is a different matter. It's long, likely down to your waist, and you almost never cut it. It's a part of your womanhood. Washing it is a major undertaking involving buckets of heated water, more of that harsh lye soap, and hours of drying time by the fire. You certainly don't do it this morning. Instead, you unbraid it from the loose plait you slept in, run your fingers through it to de-angle the worst of the knots, and then deftly braid it back into two tight plaits that you'll pin up and out of the way for the day's work. This keeps it relatively clean and, more importantly, keeps it from catching in a spinning wheel, being singed by the fire, or getting tangled while you're bent over in the fields. It's practical, above all else. You might, if you're feeling particularly fancy, rub a little lavender or chamomile onto your wrists and neck, not to be clean, but just to smell a bit more like a person, and a bit less like a Bourne. The medieval world runs on a different olfactory scale. The goal isn't to eliminate scent, an impossible task, but to manage it. You take a deep breath. You are now, by the standards of your time, ready to face the day. Your skin is raw, your mouth tastes of wood, and you still feel a deep, internal chill from the cold water. But the night's grime has been addressed. The chamber pot is empty. You have performed the first of many duties that fall to you simply because you were born a woman. And you haven't even thought about what you'll wear, let alone what you'll eat. Still shivering from your encounter with the bucket of ice water, you turn your attention to getting dressed. Your entire wardrobe hangs from a few wooden pegs hammered into the wattle and daub wall. It's not an extensive collection. In fact, you own exactly 2 full outfits, one for everyday wear and one for special occasions, like attending church on a feast day. Today is not a feast day. You reach for your work clothes. The first layer, and arguably the most important, is your shift. Known also as a chemise, this is your primary undergarment. It's a long, simple, T-shaped gown made of linen. The linen itself is one of your few small comforts. Worn and washed many times, it has lost its initial stiffness and is now surprisingly soft against your raw-feeling skin. This shift is your shield. It serves the dual purpose of protecting your valuable outer garments from the sweat and oils of your body, and protecting your body from the coarse, itchy wool you're about to put on top of it. You pull the soft linen over your head, and it falls to your ankles, the long sleeves covering your wrists. It's breathable, absorbent, and the closest thing to a luxury you will experience all day. And that's it for undergarments. You heard me right. That's the entire first layer. Historians still argue about whether or not medieval women, particularly in the peasant classes, wore any kind of underpants or drawers. While men's linen braids are well documented and frequently depicted in art, the evidence for an equivalent female garment is almost completely non-existent for much of the period. The prevailing theory is that, for you, there's nothing else. The long, ankle-length shift is deemed sufficient. It's a minimalist approach to fashion that offers, well, let's just call it excellent ventilation and leave it at that. Next comes the main event, your kirtle. This is your dress, your tunic, your all-purpose outer layer. It's made of wool, and it feels exactly as you'd expect. It's heavy, it's thick, and it's undeniably scratchy, especially around the neck and wrists where it might touch your skin. Wool is the perfect fabric for your life. It's incredibly durable, insulating even when damp, and naturally water-resistant thanks to the lanolin from the sheep. That lanolin also gives the garment a slightly greasy feel and a faint, but permanent, sheep-like smell. You're used to it. It's the smell of warmth and survival. You pull the heavy kirtle over your head. It's been dyed using plants gathered from the surrounding countryside. Madder root for a reddish-brown, weld for a muted yellow, or woad for a faded blue. Bright, vibrant colors are the territory of the rich, requiring expensive imported dyestuffs and skilled artisans. Your wardrobe is a practical palette of earth tones. Think 50 shades of brown, with daring excursions into muddy green and murky ochre. The cut of the kirtle is simple and functional, loose enough to allow you to bend, lift, and walk freely, but not so baggy that it would get in your way. Your body shape is irrelevant here. This garment isn't designed to flatter, it's designed to endure. The kirtle hangs on you like a colorful sack until you reach for the most critical accessory, your girdle. This isn't the restrictive foundation garment of later centuries. It's simply a belt, a long strip of woven cloth or leather that you tie firmly around your waist or hips. It gives your kirtle some shape, but more importantly, it's your medieval utility belt. From this girdle, you can hang all the essential tools for your day. You loop the cord of your small leather purse through it. You slide your eating knife, or buy knife, in its sheath onto the belt. Everyone carries their own knife. It's your personal, all-purpose cutlery and multi-tool. It's less of a fashion statement and more of a one-woman mission control, holding everything you need to get through the day without having to constantly run back to the hut. Now for your feet. You own one pair of shoes. They are simple leather-turned shoes, constructed inside out and then turned right side out, leaving a single, hidden seam. They are one of your most valuable possessions, painstakingly made by a local cobbler, and you treat them with care. You'll wear them for working in the fields or walking to the village, but around the hut, you often go barefoot to preserve them. You slip them on, the cool leather molding to your feet. They have no built-up heel and no arch support, but they are a world better than the cold ground and sharp stones. Finally, the most socially important piece of your attire. As a grown woman, you must cover your hair. To go outside with your hair flowing freely would be a sign of either maidenhood, moral looseness, or madness. You take your 2 long braids and pin them up in a coil on top of your head. Then, you take a simple rectangle of white or off-white linen, your veil or wimple, and carefully wrap it around your head, covering your hair completely and tucking the ends in. It keeps your hair clean, out of your face, and signals to the world that you are a respectable, modest woman. You are now fully dressed. Encased in your layers of linen and wool, you feel the slight weight of your clothes, a familiar pressure on your shoulders. You are not comfortable in the modern sense. The wool is a bit itchy, the whole ensemble is a bit cumbersome. But you are protected. You are practical. You are respectable. You are ready to work. Now dressed in your full, multi-layered uniform, you are indeed ready for work. But first, fuel. Your mother is already crouched by the central hearth, skillfully coaxing the glowing embers from last night back to life with a gentle breath and a few handfuls of dry kindling. The familiar smell of wood smoke begins to thicken in the air again, a smell you now associate with the promise of warmth and, if you're lucky, food. The concept of breakfast, however, isn't quite what you think it is. Historians still debate whether a distinct morning meal was a standard practice for all medieval adults. Many sources suggest that for the working class, the first substantial meal of the day, the prandium, wasn't eaten until after several hours of hard labor, closer to noon. For you, this morning meal isn't a leisurely, sit-down affair. It's a quick, functional, and frankly, uninspired refueling stop. Your mother ladles the morning's offerings from the large iron cauldron that hangs on a hook over the fire. There are 2 choices, and they are the same choices you have most days. The first is bread. Forget the light, airy, crusty loaf you might get from a modern bakery. This is a slab of dense, dark, heavy bread, made from rye or barley flour. Wheat is the grain of the wealthy, the stuff of fine white manchet bread served in the Lord's hall. Your loaf is nearly black, with a chewy, tough crust and a dense, moist interior. You take the hunk of it offered to you in your bare hand. As you take a bite, your teeth work hard, grinding the coarse grains. And then you feel it. A tiny, hard, unyielding speck. Grit. This is an unavoidable feature of your diet. The grain is ground at the local mill between two massive, heavy millstones. No matter how well maintained the stones are, tiny fragments and fine stone dust inevitably get mixed in with the flour. Every single loaf of bread you will ever eat contains these microscopic, and sometimes not so microscopic, bits of stone. Forget artisanal whole grain, this is more like geological grade bread. The long-term consequences of this are written on the skulls of your ancestors. The constant grinding of grit wears down teeth at an astonishing rate. By the time you reach middle age, if you're fortunate enough to do so, your teeth will likely be worn flat, the enamel gone, leaving the sensitive dentin exposed and creating a gateway for horrific abscesses and infections. Each bite is a dental adventure, a slow-motion act of destruction you must perform to survive. Your other option, simmering in the pot, is pottage. This is the cornerstone of the peasant diet, the original perpetual stew. It's a thick, porridge-like mixture of whatever grains and vegetables are available. The base is usually oats, barley, or peas, boiled in water until they break down into a thick, soupy mush. Into this pot goes anything and everything. Onions, cabbage, leeks, carrots from your small garden plot, perhaps some foraged wild greens. The pottage is never-ending. It simmers on the hearth for days, with new ingredients simply added on top of the old. There's no refrigeration, so the constant simmering is what keeps it from spoiling. It's the original slow cooker recipe, with a cook time of forever. Meat is a rare and treasured addition, perhaps a bit of bacon fat for flavor, or the leftover bones from a feast day to give the broth some richness. But most days, it is a simple, vegetarian, grayish-brown slurry. You watch as your brother takes a bowl of it, the steam rising in the cool morning air. To go with your meal, you have a choice of drink. You could have water, but the stream can be unreliable, and the well water sometimes has a strange taste. The safest and most common drink, even for breakfast, is small ale. This is a weak, low-alcohol beer, and it is a staple of your diet. The brewing process, which involves boiling the water, kills most of the harmful pathogens, making it a much safer option than plain water. It's also a source of liquid nutrition, full of carbohydrates from the grain. It's not strong enough to make you dizzy. You'll be working hard all day, but it has a slightly sour, tangy taste. Your morning beverage options are weak ale or questionable water. Coffee is a foreign concept, centuries away from arriving in Europe, so don't even begin to dream of a hot latte. You sit on a low stool, your back to the smoky fire, and finish your gritty bread, washing it down with a swig of the thin, sour ale from a shared wooden tankard. The meal is eaten quickly, perhaps in silence, or with only a few muttered words about the day's chores. This is not family time. This is not for pleasure. It's a purely functional act. The heavy bread sits in your stomach, a dense lump of energy. It is not delicious. It is not satisfying. But it is what stands between you and collapsing in the fields in a few hours. And you will need every single calorie it provides. The day has barely begun, and the real work is about to start. With the meager breakfast consumed, your father and brother grab their tools and head for the door without a word. Their work today is in the Lord's fields, a duty they cannot escape. Your mother begins gathering supplies for her own tasks, but your domain, for now, remains fixed. You are tethered to the very heart of the home, the fire. This simple pit of embers and flames is the sun around which your domestic world orbits. It is your source of light in the pre-dawn gloom, your only defense against the biting cold, and the engine that cooks your food. You're not just a daughter or a future wife. You're a part-time pyrotechnician, a smoke inhalation specialist, and the sole operator of the hot central heating and catering system. The fire demands constant attention. It's a hungry, fickle creature. Letting it die out completely would be a disaster, forcing a difficult and time-consuming restart, possibly requiring you to beg a hot coal from a neighbor. So you tend to it, feeding it logs from the precious woodpile stacked against the wall. This wood didn't magically appear. You and your siblings spent countless hours in the woods gathering it, a task that comes with its own set of dangers, from angry foresters to tumbling down a ravine. You've learned the difference between good, seasoned hardwood that burns hot and long, and green, sappy wood that hisses and spits, filling the hut with even more acrid smoke than usual. Historians still debate the specific household roles surrounding the fire, particularly how they were divided by gender and age. While you, as a woman, are primarily responsible for the cooking that happens over it, the heavy work of chopping large logs might fall to your father, and the endless task of gathering kindling is often foisted upon the youngest children. But the minute-by-minute management, the careful placement of logs, the adjustment of the cauldron's height, the gentle stoking of the embers, that is your art. It's a skill learned through years of silent observation and painful mistakes. And the mistakes are painful because this hearth is profoundly dangerous. The most immediate threat is the one you breathe. With no chimney, the smoke pools in the rafters and hangs in a permanent, stinging haze at head level. Your eyes are perpetually red and watery. You have a constant tickle in your throat that often turns into a hacking cough, just like your father's. This chronic smoke exposure will, over time, lead to debilitating lung diseases. But that's a worry for the future. The more present danger is the fire itself. You look around your home. The walls are woven sticks and dried mud. The roof is thatch. The floor is dirt, but it's often strewn with straw for insulation and to soak up mud. Your bed is a sack of straw. The clothes on your back are flammable wool and linen. Your home has no smoke detector, no fire extinguisher, and is constructed entirely of materials that might as well be tinder. It's not a house. It's a future bonfire with a 24-hour waiting period. A single stray spark, coughed out from a pocket of sap in a log, could land in the thatch or the straw bedding and ignite your entire world in minutes. This fear is so universal that it's baked into your language. The very word curfew comes from the old French command, couvre-feu, which means cover the fire. It was the name for the bell rung every evening in towns and villages, signaling the time for every household to bank their flames and cover the embers with a clay or metal lid, a crucial act of collective fire prevention. Beyond the atmospheric and incendiary dangers, there is the raw physical labor. The heat is relentless. As you crouch near the hearth to stir the pottage, your face flushes and your skin feels tight. Sweat trickles down your temples despite the lingering chill and the rest of the hut. Your main piece of equipment is the heavy iron cauldron. Now that breakfast is over, you need to adjust it for the day's slow simmer. This involves carefully unhooking it from the iron chain, which is searing hot, and moving it up a notch. The pot is wide, black with soot, and weighs a ton, especially when it's half full of bubbling stew. Lifting this thing is your morning workout, a combination of a deadlift and a terrifying game of don't spill the boiling lava on your feet. A severe burn is a common injury, and with the state of medicine being what it is, Even a moderate burn can easily become infected and kill you. You succeed, your arms trembling slightly from the strain. The pottage is now simmering gently. From the blackened rafters above, you can see bunches of herbs hanging to dry in the smoky air, and perhaps a side of bacon being slowly cured by the constant exposure. You might need to shift a damp tunic that was hung nearby to dry, moving it further away so it doesn't scorch. The hearth is the hub, and you are its master. For now, the beast is tamed. But the sun is climbing higher, its pale light now filtering more strongly through the open doorway, pulling your attention to the world outside. Your morning duties here are done, but the day's labor is far from over. Leaving the smoky confines of the hut is like stepping into another world. The morning air, while still cool, is fresh and clean, carrying the scent of damp earth and growing things. You take a deep breath, a luxury you didn't have inside. The sun is climbing, casting long shadows across the small collection of huts that make up your village. For some of you listening, perhaps in the quiet of the very late night in a place as far away as Indonesia, this moment of dawn might seem peaceful, but for you it is simply the starting pistol for the day's race. There is no time to admire the sunrise. Your mother gives you a nod, and you head to the lean-to shed attached to the side of the hut. You grab your tool for the day. It's not a complex piece of machinery. It's a short-handled hoe, its iron head painstakingly shaped by the village blacksmith and its wooden handle worn smooth by your own hands. The only high-tech gadget you have is a stick, and on a good day, it's a stick with a pointy bit of metal on the end. This is the technology that will power your entire day. You walk past your small family garden plot, the curtilage, where you grow the vegetables for your pottage. Your destination is much larger, the vast, open fields that belong to the lord of the manor. This is where your family owes its labor, a condition of your tenancy. The fields are laid out in a familiar pattern, one of the most important agricultural innovations of the age, the three-field system. You can see it clearly from here. One massive field lies fallow, resting for the season, its dark soil waiting. Another is thick with the green shoots of winter wheat, the bread crop. The third, your destination, is planted with legumes, peas, and beans. This rotation, a field for grain, a field for soil-enriching legumes, and a field for rest, is what keeps the land from becoming exhausted. It's a simple, brilliant system that allows for a greater harvest than your ancestors could have ever managed. And you are a tiny, human cog in that great machine. As you approach, you can see men, including your father, working with a team of oxen, driving the heavy plow through a section of the fallow field to prepare it for autumn planting. That is considered man's work. But what about your work? Historians still debate the precise division of agricultural labor between men and women. While you wouldn't be guiding the plow, your tasks are no less vital or physically demanding. Today, your job is weeding. You join a long line of other women and older children from the village, spreading out across the bean field. You find your spot, bend from the waist, and begin. The work is brutally simple and excruciatingly repetitive. You chop at the weeds with your hoe, or you get down on your knees and pull them by hand, tossing them into a pile. Bend, chop, pull, step. Bend, chop, pull, step. The sun begins to climb higher, losing its gentle morning warmth and gaining a harsh intensity. It beats down on your linen-covered head and the back of your neck. Sweat stings your eyes, and you wipe it away with a dusty forearm. The scenery is lovely, if you like the color brown and the color green. It's the original open-world game, but the only quest available is weed 1,000 rows of beans, and the reward is that you get to play again tomorrow. The physical toll is immense. This is not a gentle bit of gardening. This is hard, unceasing physical labor. Your back, already stiff from your straw mattress, screams in protest. A dull ache settles deep in your muscles, a pain so constant it becomes a part of your consciousness. Forget the gym. Your workout is a 10-hour session of bend, lift, and pray your spine doesn't snap. And your payment isn't a feeling of accomplishment. It's the simple, grim calculus of survival. You work the Lord's land so you can have permission to work your own small plot, to grow the food that will keep you from starving through the winter. You sometimes hear the men in the village joke about St. Monday, an unofficial holiday workers in some towns take to recover from their Sunday drinking. The thought of it is a fantasy. For you, there is no St. Monday. There is no day of rest. Even on Sunday, when field work is forbidden, the cows must still be milked, the pottage must still be stirred, and the minning must be done. A woman's work never, ever ends. Hours pass. The sun is now high overhead. Your stomach rumbles, the memory of that gritty bread long gone. Your hands, though calloused, are beginning to blister around the handle of the hoe. You work on, your movements becoming mechanical, your mind drifting into a state of numb endurance. The only break in the monotony is the sound of quiet chatter from the women nearby, a shared complaint about an aching back, a piece of village gossip exchanged in a low voice. This shared hardship is the only thing that makes the day bearable. Your body screams for rest, for shade, for just one moment of stillness. But the beans and the weeds don't care. There are still hours to go before the sun begins to set. The sun reaches its zenith, a merciless what-eye directly overhead. For a moment, the whole world seems to hold its breath. A horn sounds in the distance, blown by the Lord's reeve, signaling the midday pause. All along the line of workers, back straighten with a collective groan of pain and relief. You press your hands into the small of your back, trying to work out the fiery knot of pain that has taken up permanent residence there. The work is only half done, but the respite is here. And then you see her, your mother, walking steadily along the dusty track that separates the fields, a heavy basket propped on her hip and a small wooden keg balanced on her shoulder. She is not just here to bring you and your family a meager lunch of bread and hard cheese. She is also a businesswoman making a delivery. While you've been pulling weeds, she has been managing her own enterprise. Your mother, like so many women in your village, is an alewife. Her side hustle is, essentially, running a microbrewery out of your family's one-room hut. It's the ultimate cottage industry. No overhead, no marketing department, and your taproom also happens to be your bedroom, living room, and kitchen. This is one of the few entrepreneurial avenues open to you as a woman. Brewing was seen as a natural extension of cooking, a domestic art. It was a way to turn the grain from your small harvest into something that was not only safer to drink than water, but also a valuable commodity to sell for a few precious pennies. The process is one you know by sight and smell. The sweet, nutty aroma of grain being malted, the thick, steaming cauldron of boiling wort, and the magical, yeasty power of fermentation that turns a simple grain soup into hearty, nourishing ale. When a batch is fresh and ready for sale, your mother hangs the sign of her trade outside the hut, the alashtek. It's a simple pole with a leafy branch or a garland of greenery tied to the end, which juts out from the front of the house. This bush is the universal advertisement, telling everyone that ale is on tap. But this business is fraught with peril. Brewing is a fickle science when you have no concept of sterile equipment or thermometers. A batch can easily spoil, turning sour and undrinkable, wasting grain that your family cannot afford to lose. The financial risks are constant. However, the social dangers are often worse. When your mother sells ale, your tiny home transforms into a public house. The customers are the men of the village, thirsty after their own day in the fields. They bring with them their loud voices, their coarse jokes, and sometimes their simmering disputes, which can easily boil over into brawls after a few wooden cups of her strongest brew. You have to navigate their advances, their tempers, and their accusations, all with a placid smile, because every penny counts. On top of this, your mother has to fight against a pervasive, negative stereotype. Historians still debate the extent to which the stereotypical image of the alewife as a dishonest, sinful cheat was a product of genuine, widespread fraud, or if it was a reflection of growing male anxiety as the business of brewing started to become more commercialized and controlled by male-dominated guilds. Whatever the reason, the popular image is not flattering. Ballads, poems, and even sermons of the day love to paint the alewife as a scoundrel who waters down the ale, serves it in mugs with false bottoms to give a short measure, and wildly overcharges for a shoddy product. She was the original subject of bad Yelp reviews, except the reviews were cautionary tales about ending up in hell. To guard against this, her business is regulated. The village has an official ale conner, a man appointed to taste and judge the quality of every batch of ale offered for sale. He has the authority to check that her prices are fair and her measures are true. This ale taster has what is, arguably, the single best job in the entire region, to travel from house to house and professionally sample everyone's beer. You can only imagine the line for that particular civil service exam. If your mother's ale is found wanting, she can be fined or publicly shamed, her reputation and her family's income damaged. You watch her now as she hands a cup of the dark, foaming liquid to your father. She is not a cheat or a sinner. She is a chemist, a manager, and a diplomat, navigating a world that is eager to profit from her labor but just as eager to condemn her for it. The few coins she'll earn today from the men in the fields might buy the salt needed to cure a pig for winter, or a bit of new leather to repair your worn-out shoes. You take the cup she offers you. The ale is cool and fortifying, its malty sweetness a welcome relief. The brief pause is over all too soon. The reeve's horn will sound again shortly. You drain the last of the cup, hand it back to your mother with a grateful nod, and turn back to face the endless green rows. The walk home from the fields is a slow, shuffling procession of exhausted bodies. The sun is sinking, painting the sky in soft shades of orange and purple, but you have little energy left for appreciating the beauty. Every muscle aches with a deep, satisfying pain that promises a night of stiff, fitful sleep. As you trudge along the path, your mother tells you that the salt crock is nearly empty, and she needs you to walk to the market town tomorrow to sell the few extra eggs the chickens have laid and buy a new supply. Instantly, your mind shifts from the dull ache of physical labor to the sharp, nervous energy required for a day in town. While some of you are drifting off to sleep in your quiet rooms, your mind is now wide awake, mentally preparing for the chaotic ordeal of the marketplace. You picture the journey, a walk of several miles at dawn, carrying a small basket with a half-dozen precious eggs carefully nestled in straw. As you approach the town, the familiar rural sounds of birds and rustling leaves will be replaced by a rising human hum. And then, you'll walk through the town gate and be hit by the sensory wall of the market. It's an overwhelming explosion of life. It's like a farmer's market, a petting zoo, and a crowded music festival have all been smashed together into one small square with absolutely no public sanitation. The air is a thick soup of smells. The sweet scent of baking bread from the baker's stall mixes with the sharp tang of vinegar from the cooper's. The earthy smell of turnips and onions is undercut by the metallic scent of the blacksmith's forge, and the ever-present stench of animal manure and garbage rotting in the gutters. The noise is a symphony of chaos. Merchants shouting to advertise their wares, buyers haggling loudly, chickens clucking, sheep bleating, a minstrel playing a jaunty but slightly out-of-tune melody on a lute, and somewhere in the center of it all, the town crier ringing his bell to shout out a new decree from the Lord. This bustling, chaotic square is the heart of your economic world. It's where the surplus of the countryside, the grain, wool, and livestock, is traded for the specialized goods produced by town artisans. This is a chartered market, meaning the local lord has granted the town the right to hold it, and he takes a tax on every sale in return. It's the only place you can reliably get essentials you can't make yourself, like iron pots, sturdy leather shoes, and the salt you've been sent to buy. You see women everywhere in the market, and you know their roles are complex. Historians still debate the level of agency women had in this sphere. Some women are like you, just there to sell a bit of household surplus. But others command their own stalls, selling cloth they wove themselves or pies they baked. Are they truly independent, controlling their own earnings? Or are they simply acting as the public face for a business owned and controlled by their husbands? You look at their confident, shrewd faces as they haggle with customers, and you hope it's the former. Your first task will be to sell your eggs. This requires finding a space, laying out your wares, and engaging in the delicate art of negotiation. Then comes the real challenge, protecting the few coins you earn. The crowd is a perfect environment for thieves. You have to be constantly vigilant, because every second person who jostles you is a potential cut purse, their nimble fingers looking for the slightest opportunity to snatch your coin pouch. Forget modern security. Your best defense is a white-knuckle death grip on your purse and a deep-seated, healthy paranoia. Beyond simple thieves, there are the swindlers. The man selling miracle tonics that are nothing but spiced river water. The cloth merchant who has cleverly folded the fabric to hide a tear. There is no return policy here. There's no customer service desk. Caveat emptor, let the buyer beware, is the first and only rule of medieval commerce. If you buy a pig that seems suspiciously calm and later discover it was drugged, that's your problem, not the seller's. As a stark reminder of the consequences of such cheating, you know that at the edge of the market square, near the town stocks, stands the ducking stool. This grim wooden contraption, a chair on the end of a long lever, is used for public humiliation. While you know it's sometimes used for witches, its more common purpose is to punish dishonest merchants, brewers of bad ale, and women accused of being public nuisances, gossips, or scolds. Its presence is a silent, ominous warning to everyone. Trade fairly and behave according to your station, or face the consequences in front of the entire town. Your feet finally carry you back to the familiar sight of your own hut. The physical exhaustion of the fields returns to the forefront of your mind, but it's now mingled with a weary apprehension. Tomorrow, you will not be fighting against weeds and sun. You will be fighting against crowds, thieves, and your own timidity to survive a different kind of wilderness, the medieval town. You duck through the low doorway of the hut, your eyes taking a moment to adjust to the dim, smoky interior after the lingering twilight outside. The evening mail, more the endless pottage, is bubbling over the hearth, and your mother is stirring it with a long wooden spoon. Your father is inspecting a hoe with a cracked handle. The money from the last ale batch will be enough for a new one from the blacksmith, he says, not looking at her. It's not a question or a suggestion. It is a statement of fact. Your mother simply nods, her face impassive in the flickering firelight. And in that small, unremarkable moment, a cold, hard understanding settles in your mind. It's a truth you've always known in a vague, unspoken way, but now it feels sharp and clear. The money is not hers. Though she brewed the ale, sold it, and bore the risks of the trade, the coins she earned belonged to him. Just as the chickens in the yard belong to him, the hut belongs to him, and you belong to him. One day you will belong to a husband in the exact same way. You are living under a legal principle known as coverture. It's a concept imported with Norman law, and its name literally means covered. As an unmarried girl, you are a femme soul, a woman alone, with some limited legal rights. But the moment you marry, your legal identity vanishes. You become a femme covert, a covered woman, and your entire being, your property, your rights, your very legal existence, is subsumed by your husband's. You essentially become a legal ghost. You're not a person in the eyes of the law. You're a subsidiary of your husband's personal corporation. He's the CEO, chairman, and sole shareholder, and you are an unlisted asset. The consequences of this are absolute. As a married woman, you cannot own property in your own name. The dowry your family gives your husband upon marriage becomes his. Any land you might have inherited becomes his to control. Any money you earn, like your mother's ale profits, is legally his. Your very clothes, the woolen kirtle on your back, and the linen shift beneath it, are his property. It's the ultimate hostile takeover, and it happens the moment you say, "I do." You cannot sign a contract, you cannot sue someone who has wronged you, and you cannot be sued yourself. Any legal action has to be brought by or against your husband. He is your voice, your shield, and your master before the law. Of course, the reality on the ground can be more complex. Historians still debate the extent to which coverture was absolute in practice versus in theory. You've seen it yourself. You know your mother has ways of making her will known. She might not have legal authority, but through a mixture of persuasion, strategic silence, and sheer force of personality, she often guides your father's decisions in ways he doesn't even realize. In the bustling marketplace, you see widows who, having been freed from coverture by the death of their husbands, operate with a level of freedom and authority that married women can only dream of. The law is a rigid cage, but some women find ways to bend the bars, even if they can never break them. But the cage is always there, and it has a much darker dimension than just property law. If your legal identity is his, then your physical body is also under his authority. This is where the grim folklore of the rule of thumb comes from. It's the widely held, though probably not legally codified, belief that a husband has the right to physically discipline his wife for misbehavior, provided the switch or stick he uses is no thicker than his thumb. It's the most terrifying piece of DIY legal advice in history, turning every man's thumb into a potential measuring gauge for domestic violence. Whether it was ever written down in a law book doesn't matter. The fact that people believe it to be true is enough to grant it power. It reinforces the fundamental idea: your husband is your master, responsible for you, and entitled to correct you as he would a disobedient child or animal. You take your wooden bowl of pottage and sit on your stool, the food tasting like ash in your mouth. The exhaustion from the fields has been replaced by a deep, wearying dread. Tomorrow you will go to the market, a place of noise and commerce and fleeting opportunity. But now you understand that even if you're a brilliant haggler, even if you get a good price for the eggs, the victory is not yours. The coins you bring home will pass from your hand to your father's, and you will have no say in how they are used. You are simply a vessel, a temporary holder of wealth that can never truly be your own. As you scrape the last of the lumpy pottage from your wooden bowl, the chilling reality of coverture lingers in your mind. If you are destined to become a legal extension of a husband, then the next logical question, a question that feels like a cold stone in your stomach, is, who will he be? The answer is as simple as it is terrifying. You will have almost nothing to do with the choice. Your future will be decided for you, not by destiny or love, but by a careful and unsentimental calculation of assets. Forget swiping right on a dating app. Your marriage prospects are being carefully reviewed by your father based on a candidate's specs, and by specs, he means the number of pigs he owns, the quality of his family's land, and whether he has a sturdy plow. In your world, marriage is not the culmination of a romance. It is the beginning of a partnership, an economic and social alliance between two families. The idea of marrying for love is a silly, frivolous notion, the kind of thing a traveling minstrel might sing about in a ballad before passing his hat for a coin. For your family, and for every family in this village, marriage is serious business. It's about survival and consolidation. A good match could mean joining two adjacent strips of land in the communal fields, gaining a strong son-in-law to help with the harvest, or forging a connection to a family with a valuable skill, like masonry or carpentry. Your personal feelings on the matter are, at best, a secondary concern. At worst, they are an irrelevant inconvenience. To secure a good match, your family must provide a dowry. This is the property, whether it's a cow, a few sheep, a sum of money, or a collection of household goods like pots and linen, that you will bring into the marriage. It is your contribution, your price tag. A handsome dowry makes you a more attractive candidate and gives your father more leverage in negotiations. Your value as a potential wife is measured not by your wit or your kindness, but by the material worth your family is willing to part with to see you settled. The church, in its wisdom, does have one requirement that seems to favor you. It insists that both parties must consent to the union. The ceremony itself often takes place at the church door, and facie ecclesi, in the face of the church, where the priest will ask you directly if you accept this man as your husband. You will have to say the words, "I do." But you look at your father's hard, determined face, you think of your mother's weary resignation, and you understand the immense pressure that will be on you in that moment. To refuse would be to publicly shame your family, to derail a carefully constructed economic plan, and to earn you a reputation for willfulness that could ruin any chance of a future match. Can you truly say it's consent when the alternative is ruin? The process begins long before you stand at the church door. Often, a formal betrothal ceremony takes place first. This is far more than just a simple promise. It can be a legally binding contract, involving the exchange of vows and sometimes a ring, witnessed by both families. The betrothal is like the world's most serious, going steady announcement. Breaking it isn't just an awkward social moment. It's a breach of contract that could be taken to the church courts for enforcement. Some of these betrothals are arranged when the bride and groom are still children, their entire futures signed away before they even know what it means. As you sit by the dying fire, you can't help but wonder about the emotional reality of it all. Historians still debate the inner lives of couples and arranged marriages. Did affection grow from the shared soil of hardship and daily labor? Or was life a cold, silent endurance test? You look around your village, and you see both. You see the old cooper and his wife who, though their match was made for them 60 years ago, now move around each other with a quiet, easy grace, a deep and unspoken understanding. And you see the neighboring family, where the husband and wife speak to each other only in sharp, cutting remarks, their faces set in masks of permanent resentment. You look at your own parents, their interactions a quiet testament to practicality, and you wonder if they ever felt a spark of love, or if they simply found a way to tolerate each other for the sake of survival. The fire pops, sending a final, fleeting spark up toward the smoke-blackened roof. Your future feels like a locked room, and you are waiting for your father to hand someone else the key. The romantic dreams a young girl might have are a luxury you cannot afford. Your marriage will not be a fairy tale. It will be a transaction, and you are the currency. The weight of this knowledge, this certain uncertainty, settles over you as you prepare to lie down on your straw pallet for the night. You lie on your straw pallet, the sounds of your family's deep, rhythmic breathing filling the small hut. The fire has died down to a bed of soft, glowing embers, casting a faint, warm light that does little to push back the profound darkness. Your mind, however, is racing. It leaps from the cold, hard contract of your future marriage to its inevitable purpose. The reason your father will negotiate for acres and livestock, the reason a dowry will be paid, is singular: to produce an heir, a son to inherit the land and the family name, and a daughter to be married off in another strategic alliance. That duty, the most important and most dangerous of your entire life, will fall squarely on you. As you drift in the space between wakefulness and sleep, you begin to imagine it. You think of the stories you've heard, the hushed conversations between the village women, the times you've seen a neighbor vanish into her hut for days, emerging pale and weak, or not emerging at all. Childbirth is not a medical event. It is a terrifying, spiritual ordeal, a battle waged by women, for women, on the very edge of the next world. It is the single day in a medieval woman's life when she is most likely to die. When your time comes, the room will be cleared of all men. The birthing chamber is a sacred and exclusively female space. Your husband, your father, even the priest will wait outside. Your delivery team will be your mother, perhaps your aunts, and the most respected women of the village, your gossips, a term that comes from God's sibling, women who would support you and might later become the child's godmothers. Their knowledge is vast, but it is based entirely on tradition, herbal remedies, and personal experience, not on any formal medical training. There are no doctors, no sterile instruments, no epidurals. The only pain relief on offer is a prayer, a comforting hand, and maybe, if you're lucky, a leather strap to bite down on. Historians still debate the true nature of this all-female environment. On one hand, it provided immense emotional comfort and solidarity. On the other, the complete exclusion of university-trained male physicians, who for all their theoretical knowledge rarely attended actual births, meant that if something went wrong, there was no one with even a rudimentary understanding of anatomy to help. Not that their help was always a blessing, but in this room, you are utterly reliant on the women around you. The dangers are threefold, a terrifying trinity that claims countless women. First, there is prolonged, obstructed labor. If the baby is positioned incorrectly, you can remain in agony for days, until you simply die from sheer exhaustion. Second, there is hemorrhage, uncontrollable bleeding after the birth, with absolutely no way to stop it. And third, even if you survive the delivery itself, there is the near unseen killer, infection. In a world with no concept of germs, where hands are not scrubbed and linens are not sterile, a fever in the days following childbirth is common, and very often, fatal. Faced with these overwhelming odds, you turn to the only place you can, faith and magic. You will pray to Saint Margaret, the patron saint of childbirth. And you might have access to a special, holy artifact, a birthing girdle. This is a long, narrow scroll, perhaps of parchment or silk, meticulously inscribed with prayers, holy names, and magical charms. This sacred belt is wrapped snugly around your laboring body, a physical shield against the evils of the spiritual world that were believed to assault women at their most vulnerable moment. It's the original holy fitted, wrapping you in sacred scripture to ward off demons and, with any luck, encourage a safe delivery. The local church might even own one that it rents out to laboring mothers, a testament to its perceived power. You imagine the sweat, the fear, the all-consuming pain. And then, the moment of truth. The baby's first cry, a sound that cuts through the tension like a thunderclap, bringing with it a wave of unimaginable relief. But even then, the trial is not over. Successfully giving birth is only level 1 of the game. Level 2 is keeping the child alive. Infant mortality rates are staggering. A slight chill, a summer sickness, an unclean feeding vessel, any of these can snatch a newborn's life away in a matter of days. The graveyard behind this small stone church is filled with tiny, unmarked graves, a silent testament to this heartbreaking reality. You pull the scratchy wool blanket up to your chin, the familiar smells of smoke and straw doing little to comfort you. The abstract fears of the evening of markets and marriage contracts have faded. They have been replaced by this visceral, terrifying image of the birthing bed. It is the crucible in which your worth will be proven, the test you must pass to fulfill your function. And as you lie there in the dark, you pray to a God you're not sure is listening that you will somehow, someday, survive it. Sleep will not come. Your mind is a whirlwind of anxieties, spinning from the marketplace to the marriage bed to the birthing chamber. Every thought is a dead end, a cul-de-sac of fear. You shift on the rustling straw, and a small, sharp pain brings you back to your body. It's a tiny cut on your knuckle, a stinging line you got while weeding in the fields. It's nothing. But in the oppressive darkness of the hot, as your mind is already dwelling on mortality, it feels like a beacon. You stare at the spot where you know the cut is, and you imagine the red line puffing up, the skin around it growing hot and tight, a dark line of poison creeping up your vein. You know how the story goes. You've seen it happen to a boy in the village last summer. A small cut from a fishing hook, a fever, and then he was gone. In your world, there is no simple infection. Every breach of the skin is a roll of the dice. Your first line of defense is not a doctor, but your mother. Women like her are the primary healers for their families, their knowledge a mishmash of passed-down herbal remedies and pure superstition. She would likely chew some yarrow leaves, a common herb for staunching bleeding, and spit the pulpy mash onto your cut. Or she might make a poultice of calendula petals and comfort root, plants known to soothe the skin. Historians still debate the true efficacy of these folk remedies versus the medicine of university-trained physicians. While the formal doctors were operating on grand, overarching theories, local wise women often had a practical, if unscientific, knowledge of which plants actually did something, even if they had no idea why. But if your mother's herbs failed and the infection grew worse, you would enter the terrifying and bizarre world of formal medieval medicine. Its entire foundation rests on a single, elegant, and completely wrong idea: the theory of the four humors. For over 1,000 years, this has been the undisputed truth. Your body is thought to contain four essential liquids: blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. When you are healthy, these humors are in perfect balance. When you are sick, it is because one humor is dominant or lacking. The doctor's job is not to kill a virus or bacteria, concepts that don't exist, but to rebalance your internal ecosystem. He is less of a scientist and more of a supernatural bookkeeper, trying to reconcile your body's four weirdest liquids. The treatments stemming from this theory are logical in their own way. If you have a fever, you are considered too hot and moist, a sign of excess blood. The obvious cure? Get rid of some of the blood. This is bloodletting, the most common medical procedure of the age. The physician or a barber surgeon would open a vein with a lancet and drain a quantity of your blood into a bowl, seeking to restore your humoral balance. The diagnostic methods are equally strange. Forget X-rays. The primary tool is a urine wheel, a chart that matches the color of your urine to specific ailments. Some physicians were even trained in uroscopy, which involved examining the color, clarity, smell, and, yes, even the taste of a patient's urine. Suddenly, that Ale Connor job with its professional beer tasting doesn't seem quite so universally appealing, does it? For physical injuries, a surgeon might consult a wound man, a gruesome diagram and medical text showing a single figure being stabbed, sliced, bludgeoned, and bitten by animals all at once, with lines pointing to treatments for each specific injury. And the treatments themselves are a horror show of folk magic and desperation. A common salve for wounds might be made from herbs mixed with animal dung, the logic being that the dung's warmth would draw out the toxins. Your infection might be treated with a plaster of cobwebs, honey, and moldy bread, a remedy which, through sheer luck, sometimes worked, as the penicillium mold could kill bacteria. Your options for a bad infection are basically a prayer, a paste made of things you'd find on the floor of a barn, or amputation with a saw and no anesthetic. It's enough to make you want to wrap yourself in linen from head to toe before ever leaving the hut again. You curl your hand into a fist, the small sting in your knuckle a grounding sensation. You take a slow, deep breath of the smoky air. You understand now, with a clarity that only the deep, quiet hours of the night can bring, that your hold on life is incredibly fragile. Your body is a vessel, susceptible to the dangers of work, the ordeal of childbirth, and the invisible terrors of a simple, festering cut. There is no safety net. There is only luck, and prayer, and the hope that the throbbing in your hand is just your weary mind playing tricks on you. Exhaustion finally wins the war against your anxieties, and you slip into a shallow, restless sleep. Your dreams are a flickering tapestry of the day's fears. You see the glint of a physician's lancet, the open maw of the pottage pot, the accusing face of a priest. And then, the dream shifts. You are standing by a perfectly still pond. The water is clear and reflective as polished silver. You lean over to see your reflection, but the face that stares back isn't yours. It belongs to a woman from a ballad, a noble lady from a storybook. Her skin is as white as milk, her lips as red as a berry, and her forehead seems to go on forever. You wake with a start, the image of that impossibly perfect face burned into your mind. You know, as every woman in your era knows, the precise template for ideal beauty. It is an image dictated by the aristocracy, a look that screams wealth, leisure, and delicacy. And at the very top of the list of requirements is that astonishingly high, perfectly oval, domed forehead. To achieve this, high-born women would painstakingly pluck their hairline, hair by hair, often removing an inch or more of hair to create the desired lofty, curved shape. They would also pluck their eyebrows into thin, barely their arches, or sometimes remove them entirely. The goal was a smooth, serene, and intelligent look, a forehead so vast and empty it could host its own outdoor film festival. It was less about accentuating your features and more about maximizing your cranial real estate. Next on the list is skin as pale and luminous as a pearl. Your own skin, browned and weathered by long hours in the sun, is an immediate and visible marker of your peasant status. A tan is the sign of a laborer. A noble lady's pallor proved she lived a life of leisure, shielded from the elements indoors. To achieve this fashionable, almost sickly whiteness, they would slather their faces in a cosmetic called Venetian ceruse. It was a thick, white paste that gave the skin a smooth, opaque, porcelain finish. It was also made of white lead. With each application, the lead would slowly poison the user, causing skin damage, hair loss, and eventually, organ failure and death. Your makeup bag, if you were a noble woman, would contain lead, mercury, and deadly poison. It's less of a beauty routine and more of a slow, deliberate act of self-destruction. Of course, a completely white face looked rather ghoulish, so a touch of color was needed. A faint, maidenly blush on the cheeks and reddened lips were also in vogue. This could be achieved relatively harmlessly with the juices of plants like strawberries or madder root. But for a more vibrant and lasting stain, some women used vermilion, a brilliant red pigment made from powdered mercuric sulfide. So, to the lead, you could now add a dash of mercury poisoning. And for the eyes, the most daring women had one final, terrifying trick. They would use drops of a tincture made from the plant belladonna, also known as deadly nightshade. The name belladonna literally means beautiful woman in Italian, because a few drops in the eyes would dilate the pupils, creating a dark, wide-eyed, supposedly captivating gaze. It also, of course, caused blurred vision, light sensitivity, and could eventually lead to blindness. The desired aesthetic was ethereal, slightly sickly, and perpetually surprised. Historians still debate how far down the social ladder these dangerous and demanding beauty standards permeated. As you lie there on your pallet, the dream lady's face fading from your mind, you know the answer for yourself. You look at your hands in the dim light, seeing the calluses and the dirt under your nails. You don't have the money to buy lead-based powders, nor the time to sit for hours plucking your hairline. These are the preoccupations of the idle rich. But the ideal still affects you. You are judged against it every day. When the Lord's wife rides through the village, her pale, plucked face looking down on the workers, the difference between her world and yours is stark. Her beauty is a costume that signifies her status, and your lack of it signifies yours. Your beauty routine is simpler, born of hope rather than vanity. You might wash your face with sour buttermilk, hoping it will fade your freckles. Before a feast day, you might rub beet juice on your lips and cheeks for a hint of color. These are the small, harmless ways you try to touch the edges of an impossible standard. It's another expectation you can never meet, a reminder that you are valued not just for your labor and your fertility, but for an appearance that is, for you, utterly and permanently out of reach. The weight of judgment, doesn't just come from the eyes of the nobility or the whispers of your fellow villagers. As you lie in the dark, you feel a much heavier, more profound gaze upon you. It is the gaze of God, and its earthly agent is the single most powerful force in your world, the church. The laws of the manor and the customs of your village may govern your daily actions, but it is the law of God, interpreted by an exclusively male clergy, that seeks to govern your soul. And its foundational lesson, taught to you since you were old enough to understand words, is that you are, by your very nature, a source of sin. You are a daughter of Eve. That is your inheritance. You've heard the story 100 times from the village priest, his voice echoing in the cold stone church. It was Eve, your primordial mother, who was weak, who listened to the serpent, who succumbed to temptation and then, in her weakness, tempted Adam to bring about the fall of all humankind. You are taught from birth that your entire gender carries the stain of that original sin. It means you are inherently more gullible, more prone to temptation, and less capable of rational thought than men. No pressure, but every time you have a thought deemed sinful, envying a neighbor's larger garden plot, feeling a flash of anger at your father, you're not just having a bad day. You're living up to your corrupt lineage, letting down the whole team all over again. This doctrine shapes every aspect of your public and private life. It is why you must cover your hair, lest its beauty provoke a man to lust, a sin for which he is responsible, but for which you are the cause. It is why you must be silent and obedient, lest your chattering tongue lead to gossip or, worse, to questioning the authority of your husband, your priest, or your Lord. Your very existence is a moral hazard that must be carefully managed and contained. You think of Sundays, standing in the back of the small, dark church. The building itself is designed to inspire awe and fear. Its stone arches soaring higher than any other roof in the village, its stained glass windows depicting biblical scenes in incomprehensible, beautiful colors. The Mass is performed in Latin, a holy language you cannot speak, which only adds to the priest's mystique and authority. His weekly sermon, however, is in your own tongue. And it is here that the Church's power becomes most personal. It is part religious instruction, part social commentary, and part public shaming. You listen with a knot of anxiety in your stomach, praying you are not the unnamed certain person of this parish he is using as an example of sinfulness this week. But the Church is a complex place. Historians still debate the extent to which women fully internalized this misogynistic doctrine versus finding genuine solace and agency within its walls. While you are taught to be a daughter of Eve, you are also taught to pray to the Virgin Mary, the Mother of God. Her statue stands in a place of honor near the altar, her face serene and powerful. She is the ultimate exception, a woman elevated above all others, a source of immense comfort, and a powerful female figure to whom you can direct your prayers. For some women, religion is not a cage but a refuge, and for a very few, it is even a path to power as a respected abbess, a role that places them outside the traditional confines of marriage and childbirth entirely. For you, however, its primary role is surveillance. This is most keenly felt in the sacrament of confession. Once a year, before Easter, you are required to confess your sins to the priest. You must kneel in the semi-darkness and list your failings, your secret thoughts of envy, anger, and desire. It's an intimate and terrifying experience, whispering your soul's secrets to a man who, by his very nature and vows, can never truly understand the realities of your life. It is like getting career feedback from a manager who has never, for 1 second, done your job. And the church's judgment follows you even into moments of supposed triumph. After you survive the ordeal of childbirth, you are not celebrated as a hero. You are deemed ritually unclean from the blood and fluids of the delivery. For 40 days, you are barred from entering the church. Your return requires a formal ceremony, the churching of women. You must be met at the church door by the priest, who sprinkles you with holy water and recites psalms of purification before leading you back into the congregation. The very act of bringing new life into the world temporarily makes you an outcast, in need of a priest's power to cleanse you. It is a powerful reminder that your body and its functions are subject to their control. The toll of the church bell marks the hours of your day, but it is the weight of its doctrines that truly marks your life, shaping you into a creature that is careful, quiet, and perpetually aware of its own inherent frailty. Lying there in the near-total darkness, you feel the full weight of the church's teachings settle upon you. Your body, your soul, your very gender is a vessel for weakness and sin, needing constant management and purification. The ceremony of churching after childbirth is a prime example, a ritual cleansing for the natural act of becoming a mother. And as your mind dwells on this concept of ritual uncleanliness, it naturally drifts to the other, more frequent visitor that marks you as a woman, your monthly bleeding. It is a secret, a burden, and a recurring labor that you must manage in almost total silence. In your world, there are no disposable pads, no tampons, no convenient, pre-packaged solutions. Your only option for that time of the month is a rag, a strip of old linen, soft from many washings, that you fold into a thick pad and place inside your shift. That's it. Welcome to the world of BYP. Bring your own pad. And by bring, I mean wash and reuse until it literally disintegrates. You likely have a small, personal collection of these cloths, which you must rinse by hand, usually in cold water from the well, trying to scrub the stains out as best you can. Then you must find a place to dry them discreetly, perhaps hung in the smoky rafters near the fire, hoping the men of the household don't notice or comment on them. It is a hidden, lonely chore. But this is far more than a simple matter of hygiene. Your monthly cycle is viewed through a thick lens of religious dogma and ancient superstition. It is often called the curse, a direct and personal reminder of Eve's original sin, a physical manifestation of your fallen nature. This belief system is buttressed by centuries of medical misunderstanding, most famously from writers like the ancient Roman naturalist, Pliny the Elder, whose works are still read and respected by learned men. He wrote that the touch of a menstruating woman could cause new wine to turn sour, seeds to become sterile, fruit to fall from trees, the edge of a steel knife to dull, and bees to abandon their hive. According to this ancient science, your period gives you destructive superpowers. You're like a C-list comic book character whose only abilities are to ruin the local harvest and make dogs inexplicably angry. While you and the women in your village probably don't believe you can blunt an axe just by looking at it, the core idea that you are somehow polluting, potent, and dangerous during this time is deeply ingrained in the culture. You might be forbidden from participating in certain household tasks for fear you would spoil the results. You wouldn't be allowed to salt meat for preservation, churn butter, or perhaps even bake bread, lest your corrupting influence ruin the family's precious food stores. Historians still debate the extent to which menstruation was a deep social taboo versus a simple, practical nuisance. Was it a source of profound shame, a secret to be guarded at all costs? Or, in the exclusively female world of the home and the hearth, was it handled more matter-of-factly among mothers, daughters, and sisters? The truth is likely a mixture. You might share a quiet, knowing glance with your mother, a moment of silent solidarity, but it is a solidarity born of a shared affliction, a secret that separates you from the men in your life. And then there is the physical pain, the cramps that seize your lower back, the dull, aching exhaustion that settles into your bones. There are no painkillers. For relief, your mother might brew you a tea of raspberry leaf or chamomile, or press a warm cloth to your belly. But mostly you are expected to endure it quietly. The recommended treatment is prayer, an herbal tea that may or may not work, and the quiet acceptance of your divinely ordained suffering. Ibuprofen is roughly 800 years in the future, so there is little to do but carry on with your chores as best you can. It is a cycle of discomfort, labor, and secrecy, another layer of your life that must be hidden away, reinforcing the pervasive lesson that your body is a strange and troublesome thing, something to be concealed and controlled. Forever tethered to the curse of Eve. The deep, quiet hours of the night, now well past 3 in the morning for some of you listening, have a way of dissolving the barriers between thought and feeling. As you lie there, contemplating the secret, internal burdens of your own body, that sense of vulnerability begins to expand. It seeps out from within you and colors the entire world. Your body is not just a vessel for pain and ritual and purity. It is a fragile thing in a hard, and often brutal, world. And you know, with a certainty that lives in the pit of your stomach, that there is no one and nothing that can guarantee its safety. This fear is a constant, low-level hum beneath the surface of your life. It's there when you walk the path back from the village well as dusk begins to fall. It's there when a group of drunken men pass you on the road, their laughter loud and menacing. It is the reason you learn to keep your gaze downcast, to make yourself small and unnoticeable, to pray that you are not the one who draws unwanted attention. This is not paranoia. This is practicality. You know that if a man were to harm you, to force himself upon you, the path to justice would be steep, treacherous, and very likely a dead end. Rape is considered a crime in the eyes of God and the Lord of the manor, but the law is a man's world, and it is not on your side. To successfully accuse a man, the burden of proof placed upon you is almost impossibly high. You would be expected to have raised the hue and cry immediately, a legal requirement to scream and shout to draw witnesses to the scene at the very moment it was happening. You would need to present yourself to the village reeve right away, your clothes torn, your body showing visible marks of your struggle. To get justice, you basically need to provide signed affidavits from witnesses who probably don't exist, and clear physical evidence that you fought back like a corner badger. Anything less, and the case dissolves into your word against his. And in that contest, his word is almost always worth more. You are considered by learned men to be a leaky vessel, a creature of emotion and appetites, prone to fantasy and deception. Your testimony, especially in a case against a man's honor, comes with a permanent, unspoken asterisk next to it. During the trial, It would not be his actions that are the primary focus, but your character. Were you chaste? Were you obedient? Did you perhaps lead him on? The victim becomes the defendant. And if the violence happens within the home, the law is all but silent. Remember the principle of coverture. You are your husband's property. While the church may frown upon excessive cruelty, a husband's right to correct his wife is widely accepted. If your husband beats you, your neighbors will likely turn a blind eye. It is a private matter, a domestic dispute. In the eyes of the community, it is not assault. It is simply problematic property management. Historians still debate the true prevalence of this violence, as reliable records are so scarce. Was daily life a constant terror? Or did the tight bonds of a small village community, where everyone knew everyone, provide a check on the worst behavior? A man might fear the wrath of a woman's brothers or a quiet shunning by the rest of the village. But as you lie there, you know it's a gamble. It depends entirely on the character of the men around you. Your safety is not your right. It is a privilege granted by them. In some rare and dramatic cases, there was another path to justice, the ordeal by combat. In this strange legal ritual, a woman could be represented by a male champion who would fight her accuser in a formal duel. The outcome, it was believed, would reveal God's judgment. A victory for your champion meant the man was guilty. A loss meant he was innocent. It is a powerful illustration of how your fate could rest not on evidence or testimony, but on the sword arm of a male relative. This constant, casual threat teaches you to navigate the world with a skill set all its own. It teaches you to be wary, to be observant, and understand that your greatest protection is not the law, but your own wits and the fragile shield of your family's reputation. As you lie in the hut, the sound of your father's heavy breathing nearby is, for now, a sound of security. But you know this safety is a temporary loan, and that in the wider world, you are on your own. The heavy wooden bar is dropped across the door, sealing you inside the hut for the night. The world outside, with its shadowy threats and vast, empty darkness, is shut out. A fragile sense of security settles within these four walls, a quiet moment of reprieve. Your father and brother are tending to small repairs on a tool, their hands moving slowly in the flickering firelight. Their workday is mostly done. Yours, however, is not. For you and your mother, the evening brings the second shift. Your day job is farming. Your night job is textile manufacturing. There is no extra pay for this, no overtime bonus, only the quiet, constant, inescapable work of spinning. You reach for your tools, which are as much a part of you as your own hands. They are simple, ancient, and effective, a distaff and a spindle. The distaff is a stick, sometimes forked at the top, which holds the prepared bundle of raw, cleaned wool, called a roving. You tuck the distaff under your arm or into your belt, the cloud of greasy, grayish wool ready to be drawn out. The spindle is a straight stick with a weight, a small whirl of clay or wood at the bottom to help it spin, and a small notch at the top to catch the thread. With this cutting-edge technology, you will personally produce every inch of thread your family needs to clothe itself. The process begins. You draw out a few fibers from the mass of wool on the distaff, a motion called drafting. With practiced fingers, you twist these fibers together and loop the end onto the notch of your spindle. Then, you give the spindle a sharp twist and let it drop, suspended by the newly forming thread. It spins and spins, its gentle, whirring descent magically twisting the loose fibers into a strong, continuous yarn. This is the heart of the process. The drop, the spin, the drawing out of more fibers, all in one fluid, hypnotic motion. Once the spindle nears the floor, you pause. Wind the newly made length of thread onto its shaft, rehook it, and begin again. Drop, spin, draft, wind. Drop, spin, draft, wind. The sheer amount of time this requires is staggering. It would take you many, many hours, days, even to produce enough thread to weave just 1 square foot of cloth. A single tunic requires a small mountain of thread, the product of countless evenings just like this one. This task is so fundamentally female, so universally the work of women, that it has become a metaphor for your entire side of the family. The male line is the spear side, yours is the distaff side. The spindle and distaff are so linked to your gender that they are your unofficial logo. It's the medieval equivalent of a modern home having a sign that says, live, laugh, love. But for you, the words would be, spin, suffer, sleep. The historians still debate the true economic value of a woman spinning. Because it was domestic, unpaid labor, it was often dismissed as unskilled. And yet, this nightly chore, performed by millions of women across the continent, was the absolute bedrock of the medieval textile industry, one of the biggest sectors of the entire economy. Your quiet, monotonous work is, in reality, a vital economic contribution, but one you will never be properly paid for. The work is not just time-consuming, it is a tactile experience. The lanolin in the wool coats your fingers with a greasy film. The repetitive drafting of the fibers creates hard calluses on your thumb and forefinger. In the dim, flickering light from the hearth, the motion of the turning spindle is mesmerizing, your eyes tracing its path until they blur. It is a profoundly boring task, yet in its rhythm, there is a strange sort of peace. Unlike the dangers of the field or the anxieties of the marketplace, this work is predictable, contained. You know that on one day of the year, January 7th, there is a brief, carnivalesque respite from this chore. It's called St. Distaff's Day, the day women are meant to pick up their spindles again after the Christmas holidays. On this one day, the village men will playfully try to sneak up and set the flax on a woman's distaff on fire, and the women will retaliate by dousing the men with buckets of water. It is a rare, cherished moment of chaotic fun built around this tool of endless labor. But tonight is not St. Distaff's Day. Tonight is just another night. The spindle drops, spins, and rises again, and the ball of new thread around its shaft grows almost imperceptibly. The hut is quiet save for the crackling fire and the soft whir of your work. In this moment, your mind can finally go quiet too, the repetitive motion a kind of meditation, a temporary escape from the fears and worries that plague you. It is a tiny, hard-won piece of numb tranquility in a life that is rarely, if ever, truly calm. The whirring of your spindle is the only sound that seems to matter, a soft, constant rhythm in the quiet hut. Your mind is blessedly blank, lulled by the repetitive motion of the work. But then, a log in the hearth collapses in a sudden shower of sparks, and at the same moment, the wind howls around the corner of the hut, a low, mournful sound like a human cry. You jump, your heart hammering in your chest. The thread snaps. In an instant, the fragile peace of the evening is shattered, replaced by a primal, chilling fear. It is the fear of the unseen world, the world of spirits, demons, and curses that is as real to you as the dirt floor beneath your feet. You quickly, almost unconsciously, make the sign of the cross over your chest. In your world, there are no coincidences. Nothing happens by accident. If a child takes sick with a fever, if a cow's milk suddenly runs dry, if a summer storm flattens a field of barley just before the harvest, it is not dismissed as misfortune or bad luck. It is the result of a deliberate act. And while sometimes the blame is laid on the devil or his demons, it is far more comforting, far more satisfying, to blame a person. You need a cause, a focus for your fear and anger. And that focus is almost always a woman. Did your bread fail to rise this morning? Don't look for bad yeast. It was obviously the widow Agnes from down the lane, who muttered something under her breath when you passed her yesterday. It is the original and most deadly form of cancel culture. You look at your mother, her face illuminated by the fire as she spins, and you realize that every woman walks a razor's edge. The ideal target for an accusation of witchcraft is a woman who, for whatever reason, sits outside the normal, protected structure of village life. An old woman who lives alone, a widow who has inherited property her neighbors covet, a midwife who has lost one too many babies, or a woman who is just a little too skilled with her herbal remedies. Basically, any woman who is not under the direct and visible control of a man is immediately an object of suspicion. Historians still debate the primary driver behind the relentless focus on women in witchcraft accusations. Was it a manifestation of the Church's deep-seated misogyny? Was it a cynical ploy by greedy neighbors to seize land from inconvenient widows? Or was it a desperate attempt to find an explanation for the unexplainable, to impose order on a world of random, terrifying disasters? The answer you feel in your bones is that it is all of these things, woven together into a net that could fall over any woman at any time. It starts with whispers, a bit of gossip exchanged over a fence, a rumor that spreads through the market. You think back on your own day, your week. Did you have a sharp word with a neighbor? Is there someone who envies your family because your sheep have produced healthy twins? You start to police your own actions, your own words, with a new and terrifying level of scrutiny. And you think about your body. It is believed that when a witch makes her pact with the devil, he leaves a mark upon her skin, a spot that is insensible to pain. Any mole, any birthmark, any odd scar could be interpreted by your accusers as this witch's mark. The evidence against you is not something you did, but something you are. It is a terrifying legal system where the proof is your own body, and the jury is a terrified, angry mob. While the great, systematic witch hunts with professional inquisitors are still a horror for the future, the fear and the consequences are very real right now. An accusation can get you shunned, your family ostracized, your life ruined. It could lead to you being subjected to a village ordeal, like being bound and thrown into the river. If you float, you are a witch, rejected by the pure water, and will be put to death. If you sink, you are innocent, and also likely dead. You look again at your mother, her knowledge of herbs a source of both healing and profound danger. You realize her respected position as a healer is a flickering candle, easily snuffed out by a single crop failure or a neighbor's grudge. The tranquility of your spinning is gone, replaced by a cold, creeping paranoia. You have spent your life fearing the visible dangers of this world, but you now understand that the invisible dangers, a whispered word, a jealous thought, are just as deadly. In the dim light of the hot, Every shadow now holds a potential menace, and the silence seems to listen. Your spindle is finally full, a small, tight bundle of new thread that represents hours of your life. You carefully place it and the distaff in a basket, your last chore of the day complete. The fire, your companion through the evening, has now died down almost completely. The crackling flames have vanished, leaving only a soft, pulsating bed of red and orange embers. Their faint glow is hypnotic, but it barely pushes back the edges of the darkness that now fills the hut. And it is a darkness so profound and complete it feels like a physical presence. You have never seen true darkness until you have seen a night like this, a night in the deep past. There is no ambient light pollution from a distant city, no friendly glow from a neighbor's window through the trees, no reassuring streetlights. When the moon is new or hidden by clouds, the blackness is absolute. It is a deep, rich, five-star blackness that swallows sound, swallows sight, and swallows courage. This is the natural state of the world for half of your life, and your only defense against it is to huddle inside your hut and wait for the dawn. Your only night light is the dying heart of the fire, and its battery life is dwindling with every passing minute. In the immense quiet, every sound is magnified. You can hear the soft, rhythmic breathing of your family, a comforting, human sound. But other noises intrude. The wind presses against the wattle and daub walls, finding every tiny crack to whistle through. A mouse scrabbles in the thatched roof above your head. From far away in the village, a dog barks, a sharp, frantic sound that makes you wonder what it senses out there in the dark. The simple advice for what to do at night is something you learned as a child. Don't go outside. Just don't. Nothing good ever happens in the darkness. The night is a cloak for dangers both real and imagined. The forest that provides your firewood by day becomes a different place after sunset, a place where wolves and wild boar roam. A desperate thief or a violent outcast might use the cover of darkness to move unseen. And this is to say nothing of the supernatural terrors the priest warns of, the demons and lost souls that are believed to hold sway over the world while the sun is gone. The hoot of an owl is not just a bird call, it's an omen. The strange creak of a tree branch is the footstep of something unholy. Historians and archaeologists still debate the true level of nocturnal activity in a medieval village. Was it a time of absolute cessation, when every soul was barred inside their home, huddled in fear? Or did life continue in small, quiet ways? You hear a muffled shout from across the village and wonder, is it a drunken argument, a cry for help, or just a nightmare? Perhaps a poacher is checking his snares under the cover of darkness, or young lovers are meeting for a secret tryst. The night hides all manner of secrets. You know that in the great cities, a wealthy man might hire a link boy to guide him through the streets, a servant walking ahead with a flaming torch to light the way and ward off robbers. The thought is almost unimaginable. To be able to buy your own personal, portable daylight seems like a form of magic in itself. For you, the darkness is not an inconvenience to be conquered with money. It is a fundamental condition of life, a wall of black that separates today from tomorrow. The last of the embers fades from orange to a dull, deep red. The final vestige of light is gone. Now, the hut is as dark as the world outside. It is time for the day's final act of courage, to make your way from the hearth to your pallet in the pitch black. You move slowly, your hands outstretched, your feet shuffling, relying on memory alone to navigate the few steps around your sleeping siblings. You find your straw mattress and sink down onto it, pulling the scratchy, familiar blanket up to your chin. Your hut is a tiny, fragile raft, adrift in a vast and terrifying ocean of night. And all you can do is hold on tight and pray for morning. You are on your pallet. This is the end of the day, the final surrender. You try to find a comfortable position, a quest that is doomed from the start. Your mattress is not memory foam. It is memory of a form. It's a sack made of rough cloth, stuffed with straw that is lumpy, scratchy, and rustles loudly with every small movement you make. It is also, home to a thriving ecosystem of fleas and other tiny, unseen creatures who are now your roommates for the night. You try to ignore the faint, musty smell of the damp straw and the damp earth just inches beneath you. There is no privacy in sleep. Your family is huddled close, a tangle of limbs and blankets, sharing body heat as a desperate defense against the night's creeping chill. This is the norm. The idea of a private bedroom is a luxury as distant and fantastical as a castle made of glass. Your family is so close that you can hear every cough, every sigh, every sleepy mumble. There are no secrets here. This shared sleeping space is a mainstream fact of your existence, a strategy for survival against the cold. For those slightly wealthier, with a wooden bed frame, they might have a bedstaff, a sturdy pole tucked into the frame to hold the bedding in place, but also kept conveniently close as a makeshift club to repel any intruder. Even in rest, the need for defense is never far away. As you lie here, suspended between the profound exhaustion of your body and the lingering anxieties of your mind, you enter the strange territory of medieval sleep. Historians still debate the nature of this experience. Was it one long, solid block of slumber? Or did you, like many in this pre-industrial world, practice segmented sleep? You might fall into a deep, first sleep for a few hours, only to wake naturally in the dead of night. In that quiet, still hour, some might check on the fire, some might whisper a prayer, some might just lie and listen to the darkness before drifting off again into their second sleep. It is a different rhythm of rest for a different world. Tonight, you hover in the beginning stages, your body aching for oblivion. But your mind replays the day. The back-breaking work in the field, the smoke in your lungs, the fear in the marketplace, the weight of the church's judgment, the chilling thought of a neighbor's grudge. You have walked through a gauntlet of small, constant dangers, any one of which could have ended you. And now you face the final perils of the night, the cold that can settle deep in your bones and leave you sick by morning, the vermin that can carry disease, the ever-present risk of a stray ember from the hearth igniting the straw, and the simple, brutal possibility of human violence. Your one and only goal now, the single focus of your entire being, is to wake up in the morning. Not to wake up refreshed, not to feel rested or ready to seize the day. Just to wake up. To see the pale gray light of dawn filter through a crack in the wall once more. It is the lowest, and yet the highest, or imaginable. You pull the single, scratchy wool blanket tighter around your shoulders, a meager shield. Your body, heavier than lead, finally begins to give in. The sounds of the hot, the wind, the breathing, all begin to merge and fade into a low, distant hum. You have survived. For one more day, you have survived. And as the last flicker of consciousness gutters out, that is the only victory that matters.